learnteach.com/TEFL. Classroom management. Grouping and seating. Grouping and seating of the class is an important part of classroom management and can help, if used appropriately, contribute to meeting your learning outcomes and to class discipline. It's part of setting the atmosphere, the comfortable, appropriate learning atmosphere that you want. So, some options to consider when grouping and seating. You can group singly, in ones, in pairs, in small groups, large groups of 3 to 8. You can have people mingle, moving from chair to chair, or you can seat for a full class. But do you really have to have them seated? Seated on chairs, they could sit on the floor, or they could even stand. Perhaps that's more appropriate with mingles. Also pairs, they may be sat facing each other or back to back, but an appropriate grouping and arrangement of seating and tables may help your activity and your whole class really to succeed. Learning is fostered, language learning in particular, when the learners are forced to produce language. To produce, they have to recall things in memory, to rationalize things, to express things, to monitor their language. Now, ideally, they will express themselves to a native speaker, but that's the ideal isn't always possible. There are many students, but only one teacher. If you had an hour class, 30 students, that only gives 2 minutes each. But if the students are arranged, for example, in pairs, then the amount of time that the student has to produce the language, to do the thinking, the self-correction, the recalling from memory needed to produce that language, the more effective learning happens. So that's another reason why grouping and seating is important, but also, especially in pairs, but also in small groups, some learners have great ability, others have lesser ability. And it's important to make your pairs balanced, make your groups balanced, so that the stronger learner is able to gain the maximum and help the weaker learner in the process. So grouping and seating is quite important. This may not be the only way to arrange, to group and seat those in your language classroom, with everybody fixed on the teacher and the only interaction possible being student to teacher or teacher to student. Perhaps your desks are fixed, but you still have options rather than just the student-teacher, teacher-student model. You could have, perhaps, the students sitting on the desks. You could organize mingling. You could move the chairs so that they were seated facing one another in a different arrangement. You have options that don't necessarily involve a lot of moving furniture. Another option is to move the desks and chairs to the side of the room and use the space as an open forum. Other possibilities include arranging desks in a circle to help eliminate spaces to hide, or in a horseshoe, perhaps with the teacher directing. Again, it's a more equal space, and there are perhaps greater opportunities for interaction between students on a whole class basis. Desks could be arranged into facing or opposing groups for certain tasks. Now, you don't have to use tables. You can simply use chairs and arrange those chairs in pairs. Chairs can be arranged in groups, including buzz groups, where people, some people in the group are moved around to shake up the groups. Chairs can be arranged in the form of a panel discussion. Chairs can be arranged in wheels, an outer wheel, an inner wheel, and an outer wheel. The outer wheel can move around a little bit like speed dating, so that there are a number of speaking opportunities with different partners. Also, think about where you, the teacher, sit. Behind the desk, top of the desk, on your chair beside the desk. Do you stand up and greet the pupils? You don't have to do things the same all the time, and a little bit of variety might help the learning environment, might help your pupils to learn. So think about, be purposeful about where you sit, how you sit, whether you sit or stand. Go to lrnteach.com/TEFL.